The wall is 4 feet away and closing. In the mirror, a car has been sitting on your bumper for 3 laps, but it feels like 3 years. The vibration under your seat sharpens. The tires start to scrub. There's a half second, a very specific half second, where contact stops being a possibility and becomes a certainty. He doesn't know it yet, but in 6 days he'll be sitting in a trailer, across a table, from the one man on this circuit who wants him gone. Right now, though, it's just the outsider from New Zealand chasing a championship, and the driver everyone loves to hate, locked together through the corner. Metal meets metal. The moment freezes. This wasn't an accident. This was 3 years in the making. The names behind that moment are Shane Van Gisbergen and Austin Hill, and the corner was turns 3-4 at Chicagoland, lap 48. SVG's Trackhouse Chevrolet made contact with Hill's RCR car, sending Hill into the wall and ending his night. Under caution, Hill answered back, a sideswipe that landed like a second gut punch. Then came the twist that should have closed the book. NASCAR reviewed the entire incident and issued 0 penalties to either driver. Instead of ending the story, that decision poured gasoline on it. Hill didn't hold back afterward, saying the contact was obvious enough that, if he had to explain it, people needed to get glasses. SVG countered with his own version, saying he was trying to get to the bottom for clean air, that he was tight, and that Hill turned into his nose before hitting the wall. 2 completely different stories. 1 decision. And neither driver walked away satisfied. This channel is closing in on 1,500 subscribers, and if you're following the SVG and Hill saga this closely, you're exactly who this content is built for. So hit subscribe, drop a like, and leave a comment with which driver you think started this whole mess. None of this started at Chicagoland. Rewind to COTA, March 2024, back in the Xfinity series. Hill was holding position on a restart. SVG went wide to challenge. Contact followed on the final lap, and Kyle Larson slipped away with the win, while the two of them tangled. The story that's been repeated in every corner of the NASCAR community is that Hill started it at COTA when he cost SVG a win, and that SVG has been living rent-free in Hill's head ever since. 3 months later at Sonoma, June 2024, SVG shoved Hill wide, took the win, and celebrated with a burnout that turned into a message when Hill answered with a one-finger salute mid-celebration. SVG's own words at the time, "This is for him now, not the fans." The rivalry kept building from there. A chain reaction incident at Pocono, then a collision at San Diego's Naval Base Coronado, where Hill slid into Connor Zilisch and collected SVG in the process, ending both Trackhouse cars in one move. Team owner Richard Childress was heard on the radio calling it payback for California, and a spotter's mispronunciation during one of the broadcasts turned into a nickname that stuck, Van Guggenheimer. By the time they reached Chicagoland, this wasn't 2 drivers racing hard. This was a rivalry keeping score, incident by incident, season after season, with neither side willing to back down first. What happened next stayed mostly behind closed doors. NASCAR summoned both drivers to the hauler at Echo Park for a meeting that ran roughly 17 minutes. SVG called it his first ever trip to the principal's office and joked he didn't want to do it again, but behind that light comment sat a heavier claim. According to SVG's own account, Hill made a remark during the meeting about wanting the last laugh. This is SVG's characterization of what was said, not a NASCAR-confirmed statement, but it's the detail that has driven the story ever since. SVG elaborated further, saying he didn't want to escalate things, that he has more to lose, and describing Hill as someone who needs to get the last laugh and the last one to strike. Hill's response afterward was far shorter and more guarded. He said NASCAR told them what they needed to do going forward, and that he's looking forward to racing. SVG also threw in a dismissive line about Hill only grunting when spoken to, and that comment spread fast online. The grunt label took hold within days, and it stuck, because it captured exactly how one side of this rivalry sees the other. NASCAR wanted a truce out of that hauler meeting. What they got instead was a temporary ceasefire, and everybody in the garage could feel the difference between the two. The timing makes all of this more dangerous than a simple grudge between 2 competitors. Heading into Richmond, SVG sat 15th in the standings, just 47 points above the playoff cut line, packed into a 6-driver fight separated by only 68 points total. That's not a cushion any driver can afford to test with a rival circling nearby. Then came a turning point. SVG claimed the pole in a Truck Series race at Richmond, his first oval pole in any national NASCAR series, chipping away at the label of road course specialist that's followed him for years. That momentum sat right next to a disaster at Iowa, where a spin dropped him to a 30th place finish, proof that every gain in this points fight can vanish in one bad restart, especially with Hill still on the track. After Richmond, the numbers shifted again. SVG climbed to 567 points, building a 50-point cushion over Ryan Preece. Better, but still fragile, with only New Hampshire and Daytona left before the chase field locks in for good. 50 points feels safe. Until you remember exactly how fast NASCAR can take it away, and exactly who's still out there waiting for the next opening. Trackhouse owner Justin Marks has publicly said he believes the feud is over. But if the people closest to these two believe it's finished, does that make the next hit an accident, or does everyone in the garage simply assume the worst? The moment NASCAR's no-penalty ruling went public, the fan base split down the middle. One side insists Hill started every chapter of this going back to COTA. The other points out that SVG has landed just as many blows as he's taken, that Hill punted him out of a Xfinity win in 2024, and that SVG responded by punting Hill off into the dirt at Sonoma. These claims now circulate as established history among fans, repeated so often they've become their own kind of lore inside the community. The Grunt nickname resurfaced again through all of this, turning from a jab into a rallying cry for one side of the fan base. Even now, most of the garage agrees on one thing. Nobody thinks Chicagoland was the last time these two cars touch each other on track. Underneath the feud sits a separate story that might matter even more in the long run. SVG's oval evolution has been building for months, starting with a career-best short-track finish at North Wilkesboro, where he led laps, followed by the collapse at Iowa, and then the pole at Richmond. Put together, it paints the picture of a driver who might be turning into the most complete threat in the entire field, not just on road courses anymore, but on the ovals that once defined his biggest weakness as a championship contender. That development makes Hill's next move riskier, not because Hill has more on the line than before, but because SVG suddenly has everything to lose heading into the postseason. SVG addressed it directly, saying flatly that he's not going to back down or be threatened by anyone, but that he doesn't want to fight either, a contradiction that leaves the whole situation completely unresolved heading forward into the closing weeks of the regular season. That's exactly where this stands heading into the final stretch of the regular season. SVG is walking a razor's edge, tight championship math, an unresolved rivalry, a hauler-meeting threat still hanging in the air, and a fan base that has already picked sides and refuses to move. 2 more races remain before the playoff field locks in, and both drivers will share the same track at least once more before that happens. Was the hauler meeting really the end, or just the intermission before the next chapter? NASCAR closed the penalty report. Nobody in that garage believes they closed the story. If you enjoy real NASCAR breakdowns like this, you'll like what's coming next. Drop a comment with your take on this rivalry, and share this video with another NASCAR fan who needs to see exactly where this is headed.